and welcome to another video. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything, it just means that you get notified every time we upload a video so you never miss any of my content. This video is going to be all about autumn tactics. I'm down at my local club water, and as I was walking around in the sort of mid-afternoon sunshine, it was starting to feel very autumnal. You know, the light was quite low, the trees are starting to turn, and there's a few leaves on the floor as you walk around. And I was just thinking, you know, it's that time of year when the fish start sort of moving out of their kind of spring summer areas and into the kind of autumn feeding zones. So I thought, what better time than this to do a video all about autumn carp fishing. So if you're planning a bit of an autumn campaign into winter, you know, and even through the winter, this video hopefully is going to give you the sort of knowledge and the tips that you need to get the best out of your autumn carp fishing. So we're just doing an overnighter on this session, quite a short session, and I didn't really see a lot of fish when I first got here and walked around. Normally you can kind of find them in the lilies, in the reeds and that sort of thing, but there just weren't really any fish to find. So I think they might be sort of moved out into the open water areas. So I've gone kind of in the middle of the lake really, which gives me a good view of the whole lake pretty much from here. So I can always move if I start seeing fish showing elsewhere, but from where I am, it's only a small lake. I can pretty much cast to a lot of it, so I'm just going to be keeping an eye out and see if I can see any fish, and then I can always cast to them or move if I need to. But for now I'm just fishing a couple of spots that I know to be productive from this swim. I've actually caught the biggest mirror out of the lake from this swim before, and the second biggest mirror as well, the big fully out of here, was also from this swim. So you know, it's a good swim anyway, and if I didn't see any fish, you know, might as well go somewhere that I know to be productive, I suppose. So yeah, as I said, we're going to be doing autumn tactics, but also we're going to be looking at a really special new torch that I've just got hold of from a company called Olight, which is their Warrior Mini. Now, a lot of the time I don't really use a torch when I'm fishing, but there's a few times, a few specific applications where a torch comes in really handy, and this one is particularly good because it's a really small size, but it's a really high power, and that is exactly what I wanted it for. So I'm going to talk you through the features of that and show you that a bit later on after it gets dark. And then tomorrow morning hopefully we'll have a fish to show you through the night or in the morning, but then in the morning we're going to be looking at autumn tactics. So stay tuned guys, remember to subscribe to the channel, and hopefully it won't be too long, we'll have a fish to show you. Right guys, so we're coming into the evening now, and I've not really seen an awful lot of fish at all. The odd bit of fizzing here and there, but nothing conclusive, you know, a few little bubbles and things. So it's tricky at the moment to kind of locate where the fish are. But I thought, while we're on the subject of location, I might talk to you about the first tip for autumn fishing really. And that is location, because that's the most important thing, isn't it, in carp fishing? You know, you can't catch them if they're not in front of you. So in the autumn, as the days are getting shorter, the temperatures are dropping, the water temperature is also dropping because of the air temperature. Now the surface layers generally, and the upper part of the water is the first bit to cool because it's nearest to the air, and so generally the carp move out of the margins and shallower areas to sort of maintain their temperature, because the shallower water's cooling. They sort of move off the shallow water and into more open water areas and slightly deeper to kind of keep in that sort of warmer band of water in the lake. So a bit like us, you know, we feel the cold, the carp feel the cold as well. So first thing they generally do in the autumn, due to the temperature change, is move out of the margins and into the open water. But another reason that they move into the open water is because they're looking for those silty areas where the natural food tends to live, things like bloodworm and any insect larvae and things, and you know, all sorts of stuff lives in the silt, and the carp are sort of heading out into those open water areas to try and harvest that natural food before it all dies off in the winter. You know, they can't really eat it once it's gone, can they? So this time of year they know that those sort of natural food larders are going to start depleting, so they go off in search of those areas. So a good idea is to fish the open water in the autumn. You're looking for the sort of the nice silty areas where it's fairly soft when you feel the lead down, you know, and if you can, get a bare lead. And what I've done is made some grooves on mine so that when you cast out it kind of drags in a little bit of the bottom, a little bit of the silt with it, and you can kind of see what that's like. You can give it a sniff, and it can tell you a lot about where you're fishing and the sort of areas that you're casting, and help you to decide on a spot to fish. Obviously observation is key, and if you start seeing fish sort of in a margin, by all means fish there, but as a general rule, as the temperatures are dropping, the fish move away from the margins and out into the open water. Now it's a good idea at this time of year to start applying some bait, because if you can get a few areas going, that can keep you going through the whole winter really. If you sort of apply bait in an area where the fish want to feed now, if you keep that bait going in, you can keep the fish visiting and have a really good autumn and winter season. So that's the first couple of tips really for autumn fishing. Think about your location, think about what the carp are going to be doing as the temperature drops, generally moving out into the open water, generally moving on the back of the wind as well, because the cooler air temperature, if the wind is blowing the surface layers and the colder air along the surface, the carp will tend to go on the back of it to kind of shelter from that cooler wind and cooler temperature. So if you can find a nice sort of open water silty area that's on the back of the wind, that can be a really good area to start applying your bait. And then that's the second tip for autumn really, is get a bit of bait going in, because this time of year, you know, when the fish are sort of looking for food, if you can get them onto your bait, you can keep them feeding all winter, and you can really clean up, you know. So a bit of extra work and visiting the water and walking around and things and observation can really pay off in the long run, if you're putting some effort in and keeping some bait going in. So as I said, we're going to be talking about the Olight Warrior Mini torch in just a little while when the light goes, because I want to show you it in the dark because it is really impressive. The brightness of it is insane, to be honest. And then tomorrow there'll be some more tips on autumn fishing, and hopefully, we'll keep our fingers crossed, we're going to have a fish through the night or in the morning. At the moment it's not looking that good. We've got proper flat calm conditions, clear skies. It's going to be quite cold, not the best conditions, but there's always a chance while you're here, and I'm going to be watching the water and doing everything I can to try and catch one for you. So stay tuned guys, we'll talk to you about the torch soon. It is a pretty nice bit of kit, and then we'll be doing the autumn tactics in the morning. Right guys, so as promised, we're going to be looking at the Olight Warrior Mini. So I'll get it out for you and we'll talk you through some of the features. It's a pretty awesome bit of kit, I'm sure you're going to like it. So basically, there it is. Pretty small size, probably as long as my index finger, so absolutely tiny, and it really is a powerful bit of kit. Now, most of my carp fishing, I use a head torch at night. You know, you can have it on your head and you can have your hands free, and do whatever you want, you know, tie rigs, things around your bivvy and that. It's really handy. But what I struggle with is casting, because it's just not bright enough. You know, you can't see a far tree line if you're trying to cast over. you just can't quite get the beam bright enough to see what you're doing. And you know, sometimes if I'm using my bait boat or something at night, even though that's got lights on it and I'm using my head torch, I still can't quite see where I'm trying to drive the boat to, particularly if it's like tucking in under trees and things like that. So what I wanted to do was find a really, really bright torch that was quite small, such as this one, and you know, really bright but also lightweight and didn't sort of weigh me down. And Olight is a company that I hadn't heard of before, but they actually contacted me and said, would I like one of these to review? So I said, well, yeah, you know, I've been looking for a torch for a while and this actually looks perfect. So a couple of the things that I really like about it, it's rechargeable, so you don't have to carry spare batteries around with you. It's never going to run out on your session because it's actually got a USB magnetic charging cable. I'll show you that. So this is the cable that comes with it, and as you can see, it's USB, and then it's got this end on, and literally that just snaps on. As you can see there, so it's literally just that's all you do to charge it, and then that plugs into your battery pack. Now most people carry a battery pack, as I do when I'm fishing. So this is my smaller one, which will last me for a good sort of 48-hour session or something like that, even longer actually, probably 3 or 4 day session, and that includes kind of charging my camera batteries and phone and everything else. So I've always got a battery pack with me, so I need something that's chargeable on the bank really. So USB rechargeable, you know, a lot of things you can buy, they kind of you have to plug them in, or you have to take the batteries out and plug them in and charge them and then put them back in, and you know, it's a bit of a faff. But this is all in one thing, and literally, you know, the lead comes with you, that goes on the back, magnetic, and then I can plug that into my power pack while I'm fishing, and I don't know if you can see that there, that lights up. Hopefully, yeah, you can see that's lit up red there, so that means it's charging. And then when it goes green, it means it's fully charged, so it kind of indicates that it's full. So it's a fantastic bit of kit in terms of practicality. You know, it's small, it's light, and you can charge it on the bank, which is, you know, really good. But also, one thing that's amazing about it, it's got this clever two-way clip. Now the reason that is really good is because if you've got a cap, which a lot of us do, it can actually go on to your cap like that, and then it's like a head torch. So if you want to cast at night, you've got the perfect super bright beam to see where you're casting to. And my head torch that I carry and have been doing up until now just isn't that bright, but this thing, it goes to 1,500 lumens, which for a small torch that's rechargeable is absolutely insane. But also, if you want to do something kind of in your bivvy, like tie a rig or something, and you need a brighter light, you can turn your hat around and have it this way, so it's facing downwards. So take my warm hat off because it is a cold night tonight, but you know, you can have it like that, and then that sort of points down and lets you do stuff. You know, you can see my hands are lit up there. If I want it bright, it goes like super bright, 1,500 lumens. So, you know, it's a very versatile bit of kit for carp fishing. So what I wanted to try and do was show you the different modes, and then I'm going to try and show you how bright it is by shining it on the other side of the lake, because luckily tonight there's no one else on this lake, so I can get away with that without annoying anyone. So What we'll do, I'm going to just go through the modes until, so turn it off. Okay, this mode, you can see, is really dim. Now that's called the moon mode, and that is 1 lumen. So if you're just like sitting in your bivvy in the evening, you just want a little bit of light, you know, long winter nights and all that, you just want a really dim light. If you just kind of sat chilling, you can have that, you know, nice, that's called the moon setting. And that is when the light's off, you just hold the button down for 2 seconds and it comes on, and click it again to turn it off. And then if you want to get it onto the first sort of normal mode, if you like, you hold it again and it goes a little bit brighter like that. And then it goes up in stages, like hold it, gets brighter, hold it, gets brighter still. Now you think that's pretty bright. If you double click it, that's the 1500, and that is insanely bright. And also there's a couple of modes where you can have it like strobing if you want. There you go. I don't think I'd probably use that mode, but you might if you're going to have a rave in your bivvy. But yeah, so it's got that super bright 1500 lumens, which, you know, for casting at night and, you know, driving your bait bay out under trees and all that sort of thing, it's absolutely genius. And like I said, you can attach it to your cap, so it's like a head torch. There's not many torches where you can use them that way. So what I'm going to do now is try and show you how bright it is on the other side of the lake, so you can see how useful this would be for night fishing, which a lot of us do, don't we, when we're carp fishing. So I'll show you that now. Right guys, so annoyingly it's a little bit misty tonight, so it's kind of reflecting back off the mist that's in the air, but hopefully if I can get this to focus, you can see there that that's shining right across, probably 80 yards across the other side of the lake there. And so if you were wanting to cast at night, you could have this clipped to your cap, and you could cast out over that other side to them far trees and see where it lands. And, you know, for baiting up and things as well, if you're just firing out with a catapult, some boilies and things, it's very useful to have that light on there. I'll compare it to what my head torch would be like. Hang on. So there's my head torch. I've got it on, look, that's my head torch there. But if I take my hand away, you can't see it on the far side at all. So this torch really is powerful for such a small bit of kit. And that's it there, sort of. That's it there, sort of close up. You can see how far that goes, and it's really lighting up around the lake here. So if you were sort of, say, on a French trip or something, and you needed to sort of pop to the Leer in the night or whatever, you needed a really good torch to light the way, then this would be a good bit of kit to have, guys. So another function that I should mention that I quite like, the end there where you charge it with a magnetic lead is actually an on-off switch as well, and all you get with that end is 2 modes. One is the brightest 1500 lumens, and the other mode is somewhere in the middle of the sort of range of brightnesses. So if you just want it as a sort of standard head torch when it's attached to your cap, you can just press it gently and you get the sort of a medium brightness, if you like. So say if you're gonna cast in the middle of the night, you've got it attached to your cap, you turn it on just gently and you get that sort of medium brightness whilst you walk into the front of your swim to cast out. And then when you actually want to cast, you press it harder, so it's like a gentle press and then a hard press, and you get this super bright for casting out, and then you can just turn it off again with that switch on the end. So you've got two different switches to turn it on and off, and that end switch I think is just nice and easy access when it's attached to your cap. You know, you don't have to fumble around to try and find the small button on there. So if you like the look of the Olight Warrior Mini torch, then there's a link below the video which you can click to go and buy it, and also a discount code as well. So I think they've got a sale coming on, so if you go click that link now and use my discount code, you get it cheap with the sale, but also a discount off for using my code as well. So, you know, double bargain there, guys. If you are in the market for a small, lightweight, rechargeable torch that's really good for carp fishing, go check it out. And they've even got a camo version to suit us tarty carp anglers. Right guys, as you can see, we've got one in the net there, well happy to be off the mark, probably around mid doubles or something, so not the biggest fish in the lake, but well happy to have got one. Unfortunately wiped out my middle rod, so I'm going to have to get that rod back out. So I've got two rods to sort out before I get the fish out, but then I'll get it out and show you, and then in the morning we're going to be talking tactics and I'll tell you how I caught it. Happy days. Lovely little club lake mirror, caught on the amino ester, but I'm more than happy with that on an overnighter really. Particularly in these conditions, you know, it's flat, calm, clear skies, didn't look good for a bite really. We managed to nick one, so £16 mirror on the amino ester. So I'm going to take some pictures of him, get him back. Hopefully there'll be time for more tonight. It's only 10 o'clock, so I'll keep you posted obviously if I catch anything else. But if not, tomorrow we're going to be talking autumn tactics, and I'll show you the rig that I caught this one on, because it's a new rig for me, but so far I've had a couple of fish on it and landed both of them, so I'm going to keep going with it. It's a decent rig. Right guys, morning. It's absolutely Baltic this morning, hence why I've got a full coat on and everything, and it's really feeling quite autumnal this morning, so quite appropriate for this video. So as we said yesterday, I'm going to be doing autumn tactics and tips. I know I've done a video like this previously, but it's just that time of year, you know, when it is feeling autumnal. It's good to talk about these sort of things and refresh our memories, so hopefully we can put a few more fish on the bank this autumn and going into the winter. But yeah, we've already covered location. We talked about the carp moving out of the margins and into the open water areas, and actually last night I was hearing quite a lot of fish showing in the open water, but it's quite hard to kind of pinpoint where they are because they're not in one area. It seems like they're sort of dotted down the lake, some far end, some the other end, and a couple in front of me as well. So I don't think I really need to move swims, and actually you sometimes end up just chasing them around if they're showing everywhere, and you know you can't move everywhere. You know, if they were all in one corner or something like that, then yeah, fair enough, move on to them. But if they're kind of dotted around the lake, then you can probably have a good chance from anywhere, especially if you see them in front of you, which I have done, and I've caught one. So you know, I've not been too out with my location. But yeah, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is bait really. Just pour my coffee, sorry. Got to keep yourself fueled. So yeah, the next thing is bait, and most of the time I tend to use boilies at this time of year, mostly because it's convenient, but also they sort of offer everything the carp needs as they're sort of feeding up for the winter. You know, it's kind of like a full meal, a complete diet for them if you like. They're sort of tailor-made to be good for the carp, aren't they, boilies? And the carp know that, and they sort of get tuned into the nutritional value of boilies. So if you keep trickling in the boilies at this time of year, you can really get the carp switched onto them, and then that can see you through the whole winter if you're consistent with it. So boilies are definitely a big yes at this time of year. I have been using particles a bit this summer with, you know, sort of mixed success, but it's a lot of effort with particles. You know, they're messy, you've got to kind of keep them fresh, and it's not as practical as boilies where you just take them out of the freezer and off you go. So another reason why boilies are good, in my opinion. And if you're sort of baiting up and stuff, it's easy to just kind of defrost half a kilo or a kilo or something the night before and just go put it on a couple of spots, and just keep that sort of steady little and often baiting going when you visit the lake in between your sessions. And then when you're there, you can kind of just fish for a bite, you know, sort of 20 or so baits on a spot that you've been baiting, and it can really pay off. So that's it for bait, really. Boilies, that's all it is. But hook baits, now this is quite an important part of autumn carp fishing. Throughout the sort of winter and spring especially, bright hook baits play a big part in the carp fishing. There's lots of reasons for that. The carp are just waking up in, you know, the end of the winter, their eyesight's not very good, they're kind of searching out the food, they're starting to get a bit more kind of aggressive and inquisitive as they're getting ready for spawning, and a bright bait sort of that stands out, it can really catch them off guard. You know, they want to investigate it and they want to pick it up and sort of see what it is. So a bright bait, particularly I like white, yellow and pink, they're my sort of favourite colours really. White is my absolute number one for some reason. I always do well on white. Throughout the summer, you kind of, if you're fishing particles and stuff, you want to be fishing kind of a little bit of yellow or something like that, you know, tipping off your baits. Gives it a bit of buoyancy, but also matches any corn or maize or any sort of light coloured particles in your mix. So through the summer you can do that, and actually if you're fishing over a mix of bait, it doesn't matter too much what your hook bait is, because I think they're coming and picking up kind of everything. But in the autumn, when you're just fishing boilies, you kind of want to be matching the hatch. So what I mean by that is, rather than making your hook bait stand out in terms of visual attraction, you want to just fish it the same colour as all your freebies, because the carp this time of year, their eyesight's really good, they've been pressured all year by people fishing for them with bright baits, and they get a bit wary. So if you can match the hatch, it looks a bit more natural to them. And if you're coming in on a bed of boilies, if the hook bait's the same, then they're a lot less likely to spook off it, and you're a lot more likely to have a chance for pickup. So matching the hatch, what I mean by that is you've got options. You can fish a boilie straight out of the bag, or a double hook bait. I really like a double bottom bait as a hook bait. It's sort of a bit different, no one seems to do it, and it's a bit bigger, a bit harder to sort of eject for the carp. So that's a good one. Wafters are really good, particularly as we discussed, we're going to be fishing in the silt, and a wafter is quite good. It kind of sits above it nicely and doesn't get bogged down and hidden in the silt. And yeah, so wafters are good, and even pop-ups. You know, if you feel there's a little bit of low-lying weed around your area, you can fish a pop-up. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bottom bait or a wafter, but the colour, I think, is important to have it sort of matching the hatch really. And this time of year, actually fishing over the dying weed beds can be good, because the natural food will be sort of hidden in there, and they hold a bit of warmth as well. So something like a chod rig over the top can be good, but match the hatch hook baits, because if you're going to be firing out sort of freebies as well in that area, they're going to be hanging up in the different layers of the weed. And if you've got a pop-up sat, you know, it doesn't matter that it's off the bottom, it doesn't look unnatural because the baits are kind of up and down anyway. So just have it out there over the weed, maybe a chod rig or something like that, and that's a good method. But if you are fishing in the silt or slightly firmer areas, then a bottom bait or a wafter is a really good option as well. So next I want to talk about rigs really. So generally for pop-ups I either use a trod rig, as I was talking about, over weed and things, or a withy pool rig, which is a similar presentation. You know, it's got the curved upright section and a sort of a sliding blowback type thing, but it's just a slightly different presentation to a trod rig, but does the same job. But if I'm fishing a wafter or a bottom bait, then I've actually started using a new rig for me. It's not a new rig, I haven't invented it, but it's a new rig for me, and that is the Scott Lloyd Noodle rig. Bit of a silly name, but the rig itself is basically just like a blowback rig, and when I first saw it I just kind of wrote it off as another sort of a fad really, and didn't really think that it made much difference, having that sort of weird shape on the shrink tubing. But I sort of thought, well, I'll tie one up and see how it goes, just to kind of test it out. And do you know what, it's actually the best rig I've ever tied in terms of turning in your hand. You know, it really turns as soon as you move it, it just turns and catches hold. And I've only used it a couple of times, but both times I've caught fish, and that's what that fish was on last night. The that mirror that I had in the night was on the noodle rig with a little amino ester wafter, I think it was, and yeah, the noodle rig sort of nailed it. And I started using a rig last year where I had a hook ring swivel on the shank, and then you sort of floss the bait on, because I wanted to have an adjustable kind of length hair, if you like, if I wanted to fish just a single bottom bait, or I wanted to fish a snowman or a piece of plastic corn or whatever hook bait. I wanted to be able to just floss it on, so it didn't matter about the hair length. You know, if you've got a pre-tied hair length, you've got to use a bait that is matching that hair length, so you're just kind of stuck with it. But with this noodle rig, you do use a hair. But what I've decided I can do, but what I've realised I can do, is actually put floss through the hair. So if I need a longer hair for like a double bait, I can actually floss through the loop of the hair and come out through the double bait, and then just blob it like I would with a hook ring swivel on the shank. So I'm going to start using the noodle rig, and I might do a video in the future on how you tie it. Perhaps if you use that rig, leave a comment below. I'll be interested to know your success with it. And Scott Lloyd, if you're watching, decent rig, mate. I've liked it so far, and it turns really well, and yeah, it seems to catch him, so I'm going to carry on using it. And yeah, I think I'm going to possibly do a video on how to tie it in the next couple of months, guys, so stay tuned on the channel for that. Now, the last sort of autumn tip that I can give you on this session is all about prepping your baits. Now, boilies are obviously very attractive in their own right, but quite often you'll notice, if you're fishing in the silt especially, when you cast out, you leave your bait out there overnight, whatever, and wind in. If you sniff your bait, you'll sometimes find that it smells that really sort of silty, horrible smell, like the drains are blocked, you know, that sort of like awful, like putrid smell. And that's, to me, it's not ideal. You know, you want to, if you're putting baits out there, you want them to kind of smell nice and attractive, and kind of what the bait is intended to smell like, and not like that stinky, horrible silt. So this time of year particularly, I quite like to use liquids and powders on my bait to kind of prep them up and just give that extra attraction, but also it stops any of that bad silt smell penetrating into the bait to kind of taint the smell of the bait. So I use kind of a couple of liquids from Pure Bait Concepts, the hemp oil and the food liquid, and then, you know, put it on in stages, like a little bit of a coat, let it soak in and dry, another little bit of a coat, let that dry, and then it'd probably be a little bit tacky on the outside, and then you use some of the powder and it just kind of sticks to it, and gives it that outer crust, which gives you that real kick of attraction, but also stops the bait taking in any bad smells. So that's my last tip for you. It's well known this time of year, you know, prepping your baits with liquids and powders can be a real edge, and I know that some of the ingredients in the pure bait concept stuff are really attractive, particularly they've got liver powder in and green lip mussel and things like that. So whatever company you use, try and look for those types of ingredients, and try prepping your baits, because it really does seem to work. So yeah, I'm going to be just seeing out the rest of the session now, guys, and keeping an eye on the water. It's really important this time of year to be watching the water. Obviously, if you're doing a bit of a campaign, you want to keep an eye on where the fish are showing. And you might notice while I'm talking, I'm still kind of looking at the lake occasionally, because I want to sort of see if any fish show, and that gives me something to go on for next time I'm here. And hopefully the conditions will be a little bit better next time. It's been quite tough with that clear sky and no wind, and I'm really happy that I did catch a fish. So it was nice to sort of get something going. Got something that works now, and next time I come, hopefully I can capitalise on that and catch a couple more. So remember to go check out the torch, the Olight Warrior Mini. The link's down below. If you go buy it with that link and use the code Simon10, you get a discount as well. So check that out. I think that's a really good bit of kit for carp fishing. And the camo colour, I'm a bit gutted I didn't get the camo one. Hopefully you guys can get one of those before they all sell out. I know they've got a sale on at the moment, so yeah, they won't last long. So go check them out as well, guys. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment below if there's anything you want to talk to me about, and I'll see you in the next video.